Welcome to Radio Chicken. I'm your host, Matt DuBoise, founder of the world's greatest chicken coop company, Carolina Coops. Joining me from Raleigh, North Carolina, is our very own chicken aficionado, chickenista, chicken expert, Kristen Warren. We are teaming up to bring you the most entertaining and educational podcast about all things chicken. My co-host, Kristen Warren, she has been with us for 12 years now as our chicken expert, done sales, just done everything, and most importantly, been a great friend and supporter of our coops. And she's down in Raleigh, North Carolina. Kristen, how are you doing today?
Good morning. Hello, everyone. I'm doing okay.
Yeah. How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. I cut down some trees. I caught a snake yesterday in my chicken coop.
I'm glad you brought that up because I would love it if you get a chance to post that later. I'm not sure when's the last time you've been active on your friendsofhens.com, but I think it's amazing. I don't know if I would have been able to have the courage to catch that snake. That was a pretty big snake.
Wait, I was assuming it was non-venomous.
Oh, it's definitely non-venomous. Okay. You know, and that's a great thing we should talk about in a show is because snakes can be an issue. And how can you quickly identify whether a snake is venomous or not? But, you know, I've realized over the years when it comes to chickens and chicken coops, and venomous snakes have never really been an issue as far as with chickens, right? Have you ever had a venomous snake come in and eat your eggs?
It was pretty, it had several eggs in it.
Really?
It was eating eggs, and you could see them inside the body, those lumps. And when I picked it up by the tail, it vomited out egg yolk. So
oh, please tell me you got a video of that.
No. No, sorry.
Oh my gosh. So what was the species? Probably a black snake, a racer?
Someone said it was a rat snake. I did put it on Instagram.
A rat snake. All right. So that was an awesome weekend to catch someone eating your breakfast on you. You know, we talked about a lot of ideas for the show, and I'm going to kind of shoot it from the hip just like we do in our YouTube videos. All our YouTube subscribers, followers out there, I can't thank you guys enough for all your support, positive feedback. There is a couple people that are so negative, giving me a thumbs down. If you're going to give me a thumbs down, I don't know why they don't tell me why. But we're going to talk about that later in the show. We're going to bring in Ingrid, who does our marketing content, answers all those comments on YouTube, and we're going to talk about some of them. And again, hopefully it'll be very educational. If you're not familiar with Carolina Coops, that is the company that we started 12 years ago. And that is what is paying for this podcast right now in order to be able to bring what will be weekly episodes so that you can learn everything chickens, chicken coops. We got chefs that are going to come on for awesome chicken recipes. Of course, we got guest speakers. We have today a guest speaker that we just started doing business with. What brought me to her, I can't wait to talk about. So again, my name is Matt with Carolina Coops. Quick history, yeah, we started about 12 years ago, and we started in Durham, North Carolina. And I'll never forget when I built my first chicken coop, everyone thought I was crazy. You know, we lived in the city of Durham, had a quarter acre, and I just knew I wanted chickens, and I got a couple chickens, built myself a little tiny chicken coop. That was 08, and if we all remember 08, with the recession, life was not fun, but I fell in love with it. Not having any money, so I was forced to go into a dumpster, find materials, specifically wood, and built myself my first chicken coop. Fell in love with having chickens. And one of the things I thought, you know, Kristen, you and I could talk about today, and again, everyone listening, if you have these questions, specifically if you're on the fence, you know, we thought about going through the episodes, talking about where you start, if you're thinking about getting the baby chickens or getting baby chicks to raise them as adults, and then eventually raise them for egg laying.
Yes, absolutely.
So something we could definitely talk about today. We got a caller calling in. Let's go ahead and bring them in. Hey, good morning. How are you doing today?
Hey, good morning, Matt. This is Jeff from Kansas City. Not only did I jump in and built a coop and run similar to yours, but got 33 chickens out there. And what is the best age to integrate some younger ones with older ones?
Thank you so much for calling in, and you are officially our first caller. So thank you for that. And what a incredible first question, because that is one of my favorite subjects to talk about. But I'm definitely going to have to hand that off to Kristen, because this is something that she does all the time, and how to properly introduce chickens to an existing flock. So Kristen, go ahead.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, like I said, I've got 12-week-old chickens, and I've got 7-week-old chickens. And the 7-week-olds are about half the size of the 12-week-olds. And I've got them out there in a separate cage underneath the coop with them, kind of getting them introduced as far as through a fence, but when do I open that other fence up and let them officially be, or do I put them on I've seen them put them on a roost at nighttime or something like that. At what age, though, do I do that? Do I wait a couple more weeks? Like I said, they're about half the size, maybe just over half the size of the bigger ones.
Yeah, the earlier you can do it, the better. For instance, if you have baby chicks that are a couple weeks apart, it's better to introduce them when they're younger, before that pecking order is so well established. At this age, and also a huge factor in introducing new chickens is how much space they have. I have a free range
Gotcha.
situation here, and I can put one new chicken in the backyard and it's fine because there's just so much
Sure.
space and so much opportunity for food and water that it's really no issue whatsoever. But if you put a new chicken or a group of new chickens into a very confined space, all of the established chickens are going to have to really peck at the new ones to establish their place.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll
Mm-hmm.
get beat up pretty well. I'm not sure what your
Gotcha.
situation is. How much space do you have for these?
The coop itself is 8 by 8. The run itself is 36 by 8, and there's another 8 by 8 underneath the coop. So 44 foot of run that's 8 foot wide, and they've got a lot of obstacles in there, logs and directional sign I made, and slings, and just stuff to hide in, under, over, and.
Oh, that's great.
But
that's a great thing to have as well, is all of those little spaces where the new guys can really just hide and be safe. And also a second watering and feed station is also critical, because that tends to be very territorial. At this age, I really would try to put them together, because they are young.
Okay. Half the size would be okay. I mean, they're just maybe over just half the size of the bigger ones. Bigger ones are, like I say, 12 weeks, and the younger ones are 7. So
See, I get nervous. I've
got
about
the same
that.
situation here, actually. Exactly those ages, because we all bought chicks at that time, didn't we? And I did try to put my young ones in with I have a kind of a teenager pen that I keep the young ones in. And they actually didn't do very well. I took them out and put them back in the garage. It is, we are in this transitional period where if they were much younger, I think it would be okay. So they're not fully feathered.
I got some blue Cochin's that aren't fully feathered yet, but the lavender Orpingtons are pretty much feathered out.
Yeah, I would wait a couple more weeks until they get to be closer to the same size.
Yeah, so some key things I definitely want to hit on, because this is a great question, and this can be a tough one, especially for people that are brand new to chickens. But one of the most important things, and this is true, if you watch my videos, and you're going to hear me say it all the time, space is so important. Not just raising your adult hens, but if you do go to transition younger hens, especially if they're smaller with an existing flock, so important to have a lot of space. And here's the other thing that amazes me is they always know who their sisters are. It's incredible when they do leave that hen house in the morning and they go out scratching, they'll just kind of separate. And that has just absolutely always been fascinating. So hopefully that helps you. Thank you so much for calling in. And good luck to you.
Thank you again for everything you do.
My pleasure. That was, I was hoping to hear that, because, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And that is something, that's the biggest reason why I want to do this Radio Chicken, is because I'm so happy that people are happy, and I love to share, and I want to just keep on doing it on a regular basis instead of you guys waiting for me to get back out in the field and put a coop together, shoot the video, get it edited. I think it's just a great, fun way, especially with all this coronavirus. Everyone's home right now, unfortunately, and just a great way to make a nice distraction. So thank you so much for your call.
You bet. Thank you, and have a good day.
Awesome. You too.
Bye-bye.
Kristen, so tell me, I want our listeners not to just learn about Carolina Coops and us, but also, I put a lot on your plate here to be our chicken expert. I know you hate that term because you don't think of yourself as an expert, but I know over the years working together, you supporting us and talking to a lot of our customers, they absolutely love everything you bring to the table, not just with chicken knowledge.
Well, maybe a chicken enthusiast. But aren't we all?
Well, we definitely are. I tell you, the chickenista, that was the title they gave you, and it is fun. I know you did like it, but it's just, I don't know. We're gonna have to work on that. So, tell us real quick, how did you get into chickens?
Well, it was back 2010. In Raleigh, North Carolina, we have a tour to coop, which is a backyard tour of chicken coops, kind of like a garden tour. I love to see all these cities come up with these tours. It's just so fun. Saw it in the newspaper back then. We used to read newspapers, had it delivered to the house every week. I saw it in the newspaper and I just chuckled and I said, "This is silly. I've got to go see this." So it was more of a gawking session. I was just going to go gawk at these backyard chickens. But when I went there, I took my daughter, who is 18 now. We just fell in love with these chickens. It was not something to gawk at. It was something to embrace and we just were overwhelmed by the sense of awe. They were peaceful. We just couldn't leave. People were lingering in backyards, just taking it all in. And I was just shocked. I was floored. That day forward, I put my plan together to get backyard chickens. And my spouse at the time was the reluctant spouse. When we go visit people and we do these installs, I love to ask the story because there's always a reluctant spouse. I mean, not always, but usually there's one that's more reluctant with these chickens.
Oh, are you kidding me? Absolutely. I can't, it's so funny how many times when we would go do a site survey, I have seen firsthand the person that's against it, you get the chickens, you get the right coop, that person that it was against it originally, they become obsessed. They fall in love with the chickens the most. So keep that in mind. It does happen.
Yes. I love those stories. Yep. That happens all the time.
Let's take another call, and then I can't wait to bring in our guest speaker today. We've got a caller coming in. This is Julie?
This is Julie from North Carolina. Doing well with everything, except I had a question about chicken health. Is there a way to prevent the eggs from being so large that it would hurt the chicken? We extended the run to give them more exercise. And I also cut back on the chicken scratch and tending to go with a little bit more pellets, but would appreciate any more advice.
Yeah, excellent question. So I'm going to obviously give this off to Kristen, again, being a chicken question. I had a couple chickens that every time they laid an egg, it was huge. And, Kristen, do we know why that happens? Is it genetic? Is it diet?
We have chickens that lay the double yolk fairly regularly, or sometimes it's random. And that tends to be more of a misfire, so to speak, or a genetic anomaly. The double yolks just happen. So I was just wondering how you knew it was a large egg that was the issue.
Well, she did pass it. And there was blood, like I said, everywhere. She was trying to get out of the box, the lay box, and then she ran for the stairs, and there was blood all over the stairs. And when she hit the bottom of the run, she collapsed and died right there.
Wow. And she was bleeding from her vent?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think that there was something internally, not just a large egg in play there. Okay. And without a necropsy, it's really hard to say exactly what happened. And that's, that just brings me back to when we have chickens, we always get that life lesson about, loss. And it's hard. Right. It's hard to lose a chicken. And really, when I talk to people about their loss, I sometimes it's just not your fault. Like, I know you've done a lot of mitigation to try to improve the situation, and all those things are good changes to make for your chickens. I mean, more space and etc. But I don't think there was anything that you could have done in this situation. And without a necropsy, I'm not sure if we can determine exactly what happened internally to cause that internal bleeding. Things just happen with our chickens, and I've taken so many chickens for a necropsy just to learn, try to to educate myself on what I think it
Right.
died from, and then I'll get it necropsied, autopsied at the
Mhm.
local state vet. And sometimes I'm
Mhm.
surprised. I had one that died of eating moldy bread, and I didn't know that was even possible, but they were able to determine that.
Oh.
So without that,
Yeah.
we don't know exactly what happened internally. But
Okay.
I doubt it's a large egg, because they do pass large eggs all the time.
And
Oh,
actually, if you don't mind if I
okay.
chime in real quick, what can you and can you not feed chickens? And I love that question because I feel our answer a lot of times goes against the grain on most standard answers.
Mhm.
Um, mold, you know, mold
Mhm.
toxicity. A lot of people don't realize that. I didn't know in the
Mhm.
beginning either, especially if you're doing something
Right.
that I'm a huge promoter of, and that is, you have your chicken bucket, you're putting in your table scraps. You definitely want to make sure
Mhm.
that bucket gets out there within 24 hours, because that starts to get
Mhm.
moldy, and you put that in the chicken run, that can
Mhm.
technically, definitely potentially be toxic to your chickens.
Okay.
So I hope
Yeah.
that helped
That's
you. So
good.
sorry to hear about your loss. Thank you so much for calling, Julie.
Thanks, Nat.
Awesome. All right, guys, that was Julie down in North Carolina. That was great to hear from her. And yeah, it's losing a chicken, especially your first one. That's never fun, but things do happen, unfortunately. Are we ready to take another caller? All right, let's see. Why don't we talk to Nancy? Thank you for calling in. Sorry to
Excellent.
put you on hold. How can we help you this morning?
Yeah, so I've got the American coop, and we've had a couple flocks now, and I have to say, we lost a lot of chickens in our other coop, and now when I go to bed at night, it's like Fort Knox for chickens. Our problem, though, is when letting them out to graze during the day. We've got some foxes that have grabbed up to 3 of them in the last month. And so we're considering, extending some kind of a fence or some kind of a pasture. And we're not sure what to do because now we can't let them out until later in the evening. And they're just staring at us all day trying to get out. And so we've got new chickens coming. They're in the garage in their mini coop right now. And so we're looking at having a fence company come out. And I'm just kind of on the fence about, what type do you get? Are they trapped in a fence and it could be dangerous for them? So any advice would be great.
I have to ask, does the fox come during the day?
Yeah,
Yeah, mine did
yeah.
too. Mine would show up at 1 p.m. and just
Oh, yeah,
randomly
that's right
throughout
around
the
that time.
day.
Yeah,
It was
right in the
very,
front
very
yard.
frustrating. I fought that fox all summer.
Yeah, and that's not normal, right? I mean, foxes should be a
Uh,
nocturnal creature, right?
they kind of are both, especially when they're feeding their young. I mean, they've
Right, and
got pups right
I hear
now.
them at night in the woods. So we've got them in behind us. They've got cubs. And so we can just keep the chickens trapped in or possibly look into a fence to at least give them daytime grazing right outside of the coop area.
Yeah, so, foxes are probably one of the most difficult predators I've seen to deal with. One, they're foxes. They're extremely smart. I know not everyone's a fan of trapping. I did pest control and animal control for 15 years. Once a predator or pest has learned a behavior, the only way to truly stop it is to eliminate that. Now, there is one thing, and I'll definitely let Kristen finish this off because she's got tons of experience about foxes, and she's got a great tip that she also taught us when it comes to being able to let your chickens free range, because there is nothing better than that. I know this can't work for everyone, but I've also heard a lot of success with a guard dog.
Yeah, we've heard that. In fact, the lady that we bought our recent chickens from has 2 Pyrenees,
Hmm.
great Pyrenees dogs, and they do a great job. I have 2 dachshunds, and one of them would go right after that chicken in a heartbeat. What do you think about a fence to extend the coop area because we're adding more chickens? Does that help to have an outside area fenced in and basically foxes can't get in there during the day?
A fence will help. I'm not sure that it will keep a fox out. What do you think about that, Matt?
So, it's not guaranteed, but I definitely
Yeah.
agree it'll help. If I'm correct, foxes they do like to dig. And
Hmm.
one of the things I would recommend doing is if you can put up a fence and make that chicken yard area, and then also go around the outside of that fence and put in a predator apron, just like you do
Hmm.
with the main chicken coop. I think that will make a huge
Right.
difference. And then here's the other thing, was it maybe 20 years ago they came out with that electric poultry fencing? It's very
Yeah.
affordable, but boy, I tell you what, it's not the best looking stuff, but it's very effective. And that might be something to think about as well, is doing some type of fence that is electrified. And I know I use it
Yeah.
myself, and I got foxes and coyotes like you wouldn't believe. Knock on wood, have never had an issue. So that might be just the one other thing I would definitely think about. Because the only guaranteed way to protect them is to build a structure big enough, just like your run is now, with a solid roof.
That's great. I appreciate the advice.
All right. Well, thank you so much for calling. We're going to check in with Nicole. So Nicole is she is the owner of Heritage Acres Market LLC. If you get a chance, please go to her website. She was brought to my attention by a company out of Florida when we were running into some problems with horizontal nipples. And if you're not familiar with horizontal nipples, I definitely wanted to dive into that quite a bit, and then, of course, give Nicole a plug because I'm very proud of her. And the reason why I'm proud of her is she is the only person in America that is selling the original Columbus Aqua. Now, I know for some of you that may not mean anything, but if you are designing a water system for your chickens, which I highly recommend because it makes it so much easier. It eliminates that one chore that can be kind of cumbersome, especially in the wintertime when it comes to water. I know we've invented our heated water system. You can check that out at carolinacoops.com. But we ran into an issue maybe about 2 years ago. We couldn't find them. We could not find the beautiful, well-made Columba Aqua's horizontal nipples. And somebody, I've been told in America, took one of them, sent them off to China. And of course, China does what it does best, copy. And a lot of them online are garbage. So, Nicole, thanks for joining us. And I definitely wanted to talk about that and your experience with the history of the horizontal nipples. And definitely, again, if you guys are looking to make your own water system, she sells these on her website.
I sure appreciate, and congratulations on your launch of Radio Chicken. That's super exciting. So yeah, these poultry nipples, like you mentioned, they've actually been on the market since 2012, and I have to be honest that I'm not the original. The folks before me kind of bowed out after the Chinese explosion once they duplicated them. So now I hold the torch. I'm the only importer for in the U.S. for these. They're made in Europe with premium grade, high quality material. Um, and like you mentioned, there is a significant difference between these and the ones made in China. Just the design of them is different. The materials are different, and a lot of people are having problems with the ones in China. They're not made to the same standards. They're falling apart. They have sharp edges. They have really stiff springs. They leak, and oh my goodness, there's definitely a difference.
Yeah, there's definitely a huge difference. I know when we thought the Columbus Aqua were no longer available, we had to unfortunately resort to the only place that was making them was China. They tried. You can definitely tell they were trying to copy, and they were garbage. And, you just mentioned something that has been driving me nuts is, we love when you're raising baby chicks, that's when watering can be a huge issue. And because, you got the regular little gravity feeder and they're kicking shavings into there and you got to constantly clean it out. We loved when you're able to take either the vertical nipples, which work well with the baby chicks. I don't like them long term because they always end up dripping. But the horizontal nipples were the ticket. But when China copied it, the resistance on pushing on that stainless steel trigger there's just way too much resistance for the baby chicks. So again, I can't thank you enough that you are still importing these. And the biggest thing is I want to promote and make sure everyone is aware of, if you are thinking about buying or making your own water system and you want to buy these perfect horizontal nipples, Heritage Acres Market LLC, and also Nicole, her and I have started talking and you remind me a lot of what I went through. So I definitely want to make sure I promote your business as much as possible because I love that you're a believer in the backyard chicken movement. And I also see that you wrote a book, and I have to say I'm kind of jealous. Can you tell me about this book you wrote?
I did write an ebook. It's available on Amazon and my website, and it's a poultry health guide, diagnosis and treatment. my background, real quick, is I'm a paramedic and I have some history working at a raptor rehabilitation facility for injured birds of prey. So, and I've had chickens pretty much my whole life. So all of those things kind of came together in putting this book together. And I see so many questions online, people that are having issues with bird illnesses, just like your caller earlier. And so I tried to just create a one-stop resource that had everything available so that you didn't have to Google and look everywhere online for some conflicting things. So I put that together. I believe it's about 60-ish pages, and it should answer the most common questions for backyard poultry, for folks with backyard chickens. Of course, it won't cover everything. It's difficult to do that, but the most common ones are covered in that book.
Awesome. Well, I hope one day I'm not much of a reader. I have to admit that. I'm kind of lazy. I love my videos, but I am definitely going to purchase that. I can't wait to read it. And again, for all our listeners out there, Nicole, can you tell us again, where would we be able to get this ebook?
Yeah, so it's available on Amazon or through my website, heritageacresmarket.com.
Awesome. Very good. Now, I also see, again, I mentioned earlier, I think a little bit, that you also have your own podcast, Backyard Bounty, and I was recently one of your guest speakers on there. I hope I did a good job. I haven't heard it yet.
You did amazing.
All right, awesome. So that's just another, tell us a little bit about the podcast, the Backyard Bounty.
Yeah, so that's kind of an all-encompassing backyard hobby farm. My experiences with chickens in beekeeping, but there's a lot more to it. There's goats and canning and things that I don't have the experience with. So I bring in awesome guests like yourself, and we talk about all things backyard bounty. So and gardening and all of that as well. So it covers multiple topics. And then our episode with you will be coming out July 13th, where we talk about chicken coops, of course, and some tips for building your own chicken coop and raising happy chickens.
So, being that you mentioned bees, I know this is going to be completely off topic, but boy, is there something in the news recently about bees. This, just here we go again. Here's another pandemic. Well, maybe not a pandemic, but what's it called? The Chinese hornet?
Yeah, the Asian hornet. I think 2020 needs to take a break. Needs to pump the brakes a little bit here.
Well, you're not kidding.
I'm actually getting ready to write an article about that for my website. So I don't have all of the information just yet. I try to do with my website is look up actual hard facts and data from reputable resources and not just spread rumors. So I can't speak too much on it because I haven't done the research and I'd hate to spread the wrong information. But from the little bit that I have looked, it looks like that they found one of them in Canada last year and one or two in Washington this year. Washington's having a heck of a year. And so it's kind of on the radar. I don't know how much of an issue it is yet. Again, I don't want to share misinformation.
Sure.
But I'll look into that. And if anybody's interested, I'll have something on my website by the end of this week, if not next week.
Right. I think this is going to be interesting. It's kind of scary. We need our bees. We need our honeybees.
We do. Mm-hmm.
And this is the last thing we need. Yeah, 2020. Please pump the brakes, will you?
Yeah,
awesome. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. I appreciate that. If you guys are in the market for purchasing, these are the best nipples, okay? And I've always said, I'm a fan of, I don't care about the Chinese knockoffs, I do and I don't, but what I care about is educating the consumer, and then you make your decision. And we're seeing this, especially on Amazon, the knockoffs, and you really wouldn't know any different unless you worked with these horizontal nipples a lot, and there is a huge difference. So, and actually, real quick, where exactly in Europe, I forget where they're manufactured?
They're manufactured in Denmark.
Denmark. I always say Norway, so I'm sounding like a typical American.
Close.
In Norway, in Denmark. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So again, great product. What a difference.
Thank you.
And
it's so important for those chickens to have water. So it seems really insignificant, but when you think about how often it's used and how important it is And the price difference, I'm sure, is not that much. So get the real thing.
It actually, yeah, and it saves you money in the long run. You just pop these on a 5-gallon bucket or pick up one of Matt's watering bars, and life changer.
Absolutely
They're
are.
so
And then,
convenient.
the question we get a lot is, do I got to train my chickens to use them? I know my answer, but Nicole, I would love to hear what you say to that question.
Sure. So I know a lot of people are concerned about whether or not their chickens are even going to catch on to them, or they'll say, "Hey, I've been using these waters, and I go out and I water my bush or whatever, and the chickens flock to the water and they're drinking out of it, and it seems like they're really thirsty." But I can assure you that's not the case. They're chickens and they like to drink muddy water. That's what they do. But the training is really easy. The biggest thing I tell people is that they need to remove all other water sources, preferably at night after everybody's gone to bed. The next morning, go out there and poke on the pin and have some water come out. And once one bird sees it and comes and takes a drink, everybody will be drinking from it.
Yep.
It's not an issue.
Yep.
I also have a lot of resources on my website for the training, and then people can always reach out to me if they need help.
Awesome. Excellent answer. I couldn't agree more. Again, Nicole, thank you so much. Nicole at Heritage Acres Market LLC. Guys, if you get a chance, please go check that out. Check out the podcast Backyard Bounty. And we're going to talk again. And I can't thank you enough that you've given us another lifeline to be able to offer these horizontal nipples to our customers, and keep up the good work.
It's a pleasure. Thank you so much, Matt. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Have a great day. That was Nicole with Heritage Acres Market LLC. All right, let's do this. Good morning, Randy.
Yes,
Hey, how can we help you, sir?
I'm just trying to build my own coop. And the question I have is where to purchase some items, and also the size of my coop. I have 16 babies that I'm getting grown now, and I thought about doing a 6x8 hen house with a roughly a 23-foot run. And also on that same question, how many boxes do I need for 15 or to 16 chickens?
This is your first time having chickens?
Well, I haven't had them since I was a teenager. I had one. I had a little banty chicken and loved it. And since I have kids now, they're at the age they're excited. They go into the kitchen, see the baby chicks, and so I'm trying to get them introduced with them and raise them, and it's more responsibilities too.
Oh, absolutely. Well, you are going to absolutely love it. So you had a couple questions. You did start to say where to purchase. Was it accessories, some items for building your coop?
Yeah, well, I love your deep litter system, and I was trying to possibly kind of come up with my own
Sure.
of the material of the high density
Polyethylene.
polyurethane, I think it's called.
Yep, high density polyethylene. So when you're building your coop, for starters, definitely I like going 12 inches deep. I think that's a good depth for the litter. And, we use that food safe high density polyethylene. And I use it because
Right.
it's the best. But I'll be honest with you, and I tell all my customers this, it's way overkill. But that's what customers love about us. You can definitely get away with just using plywood. Because, and I know a lot of people are going to freak out right now. They're going, oh, no, it's going to rot. If your plywood is going to rot, there's something wrong. And what I mean by this is it all starts chicken to coop ratio. And when you build that deep litter area, and say it is plywood, okay, the plywood's job is to hold the diaper together. And that diaper, which is my favorite, is the industrial hemp. Or if you're using pine shavings, whatever you're using for your source of carbon, that's what's going to absorb the moisture. If you have so many chickens overproducing droppings, the liquid material that could rot the wood, you got too many chickens. You got much bigger problems. So I want to, keep it simple. You don't have to go out and spend. I mean, I think it's like $225 for a piece of high density polyethylene 4x8. So if you're on a budget looking to save some money, you can definitely use plywood. And if you do use plywood, I always tell people, think of it like and I'm sure they're still around, a wooden salad bowl. And when you have a wooden salad bowl or wooden utensils, wood loves oil. And there are great food safe oils, and that wood is going to absorb that oil. And if there ever was moisture issues, there's nowhere for that water to get into the wood. So just one thing to think there. If you are thinking about doing some other type of material, you know, I get scared. A common one is people will use linoleum. I'm not a fan of it.
No.
It's too porous, and you don't want more layers.
Yeah, moisture can get caught underneath that
Yeah, I think that's definitely
more
huge.
than it helps.
Okay.
Mhm.
And one of the other questions is the wiring for the PVC. I'm sorry, my kids are running around I'm trying to keep them away from me right now. The wiring that you have, I love that. I'm finding it, but I'm finding it in smaller sizes.
Right. I definitely love what we use, and that is the 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch, and it's commonly called hardware cloth. And if you're brand new to that material, don't let the word cloth scare you. It's you know, it comes in different gauges, and we use a 19 gauge, and we found that overall the 19 gauge works perfectly. And there's some things to think about when you're out shopping around for that hardware cloth. Now, we do sell it. We sell it all the time for customers, but to be honest with you, with this coronavirus, it has caused so many problems of importing material that we've had to stop selling it until we get more in. But what's nice about when we sell it, we actually custom cut it for you, and you're going to pay a little bit more. But in the big picture, now actually I'll take that back. You may end up paying the same, but you won't have as much left over, and we already have cut it custom for you. So if you're out shopping around for that 1/2 inch hardware cloth, what I highly recommend, here's what people don't know, is if you find some of it and it seems like the price is too good to be true, it's because a lot of that, when they make the wire, it starts out as galvanized wire, and then they weld it, and that galvanization, that's to prevent the wire from rusting, gets burned off. And then they black PVC coat it, versus like what we use, it starts out as a steel core, then it's welded, then galvanized, and then black PVC coated.
I see. Okay. My other one is how many, because I have 16, hopefully coming up hens, how many boxes for that many chickens?
So that's a great
can
question.
I get away with? Now, because I'm having the build is it's going to be against the fence. Now, I can only have the hen boxes on the one side.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you're going to be fine, especially because you're building a 6x8 hen house. So a lot of people may not know this. I know I didn't in the beginning. So, and if you have chickens, you're already kind of chuckling. So industry standard, 4 to 6 hens per nest box. But for all of us that already have chickens, you know, like right now, I think I have all 12 of mine are sharing one nest box happily. And 12. So what I would suggest is if you have 16 chickens, 4 nest boxes would be ideal. But here's the other thing too. You know, when you do build a nest box, and like if you take a look at our egg hutches at carolinacoops.com, you'll notice we have dividers, and they're roughly 12 by 12. But what I do and what most people do, they pull those dividers and just make one big box and let the chickens figure it out, and they're going to be so much happier. You just want to make sure you're using nesting material that is long and stringy, not chopped up small little pieces.
Right. What the size of run for the whole flock should be? I'm hoping to get about a 20. The full size is going to be about 26 feet. Is that big enough for 16 chickens?
So, you know, I always tell people you can never have a big enough run. And I am a huge advocate of free ranging. I know a lot of people are not comfortable with that in the beginning. They usually end up being comfortable with it. There's nothing better than free ranging. But if we had to, you know, get technical, industry standard, most people are going to tell you 10 square feet per hen for the run. So that would be 160 square feet. So if you have a run, you said originally, I think you said a run of 23 feet long.
Yeah.
And then how wide is your run? Is it 6 foot or 8 foot?
It's going to be 6 foot.
So 138 square feet. So technically, if you could not free range, that's going to be a little too small.
When we're not home, they're going to be in there. But if we're in the backyard or whatever, let them out.
The more you can let them out, the happier they're going to be. But even I would definitely try to shoot for a minimum of 10 square feet per hen. And there's also great, what are called boredom busters. There's great things that will keep the chickens busy. And that's the thing that I can't emphasize enough is, yes, chickens become our pets, but they're still they
Right.
need to work, and you got to keep them occupied. And that's one of the things that I forgot to mention, that we were just talking about our water bar and the horizontal nipples. One of the things that's nice about it is it
Right.
gives the chickens something more to work at, and then of course making
Right.
sure they have treats, and make sure that the soil inside that run is healthy and rich in nutrients, so that the chickens they're going to love scratching in it. You don't want to do things like put a screen in the floor of the run. That's probably the worst thing you can do. And then I've also seen
No.
stone.
Yeah.
I've seen sand. Don't want to do that at all. You always tell people you want to mimic or copy the forest floor, and that's what chickens are used to.
It helped out with the earlier call with the integrating the two chickens, because I got some that are 4 weeks old, and I got some that are 2 weeks old, and I'm getting two more in about a week. So it's gonna be a challenge.
Absolutely. Well, you'll have fun. Keep it simple. Don't overthink it. And I definitely can't thank you enough for watching our videos. Tell your wife I said thank you as
Hey.
well. And if there's anything else we can do for you, let us know.
All right. Well, if you're ever down in the Southern California, just give us a holler.
We will. Yeah, we love Southern California. I love everything in California. Really, everything West Coast. We got coops all up and down the West Coast. I absolutely love the West Coast. So thank you so much.
All right. Take care.
You too.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
We've had some fantastic stories. I mean, we can just write a book just on those stories.
Absolutely.
I mean,
And when he mentioned one, there's a good
Yes,
story. 'Cause
yes,
that reminds
I
us
knew
of
it.
a customer that we had in South Carolina, where wasn't it was it she or he? This is going back a long time ago. That was their pet chicken, and didn't their roommate eat the chicken on them?
yes, that was yeah.
That's how they got in the
That
chicken.
was the guy in Georgia,
George,
the retired IBMer.
That's right. Oh, great people. Those. We got the best customers, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so it is 11 o'clock. I want to keep going. Kristen, you still got time?
Yeah.
We got callers out there, and also we haven't had any fun yet. We have a couple segments that I would love to get to. I know Ingrid, again, our content marketer down in Raleigh, North Carolina, who handles all our YouTube. One of the things, guys, that I've been wanting to do is, and you've heard me if you watch my videos at our YouTube channel, and if you haven't, please go to it and please subscribe. Our YouTube Chicken Police, the people that, if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't strive to get better. We get mad at these negative people, but they are who make you better. So my YouTube Chicken Police. And then I've also realized there are good cops and bad cops. So even love all our good comments. So I was going to bring Ingrid in. You know what? Let's take one more caller. We got another person that's been waiting 36 minutes. We got another Kristen. Kristen, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you? Thank you for calling. Sorry to put you on hold for so long. How can we help you?
We had some chickens about a year and a half ago when I offhandedly told my husband, hey, what if we got chickens? And in 2 days, he had 11 chickens from a lady down the road in the front yard.
Wow, nice.
So we kind of threw together a coop that did okay for about a year, and then over a week, they got picked off one by one.
Oh.
So I told him never again would I have chickens until I had a good coop.
Yep.
So I gave him the go-ahead to start looking at coop designs, and I'm going to admit I have binge-watched all of your videos.
Thank you.
We are in just outside of Starkville, Mississippi, so our income bracket's a little low for buying one of your custom coops. It's on the dream list, but we are building our own version of your coop. And our question today is, what is the best run material? Like our run is going to be 16 by 8, but our ground stays a little soggy. So we're planning on building it up a little. And someone has told us to put a layer of sand down and then something like sawmill shavings.
So what you're asking is what type of ground prep, what kind of material should your coop sit on as far as the ground being in a wet area?
Right. How do we keep the run, how do we keep that like a compostable material without staying soggy?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Sure. Now, when the area is getting wet, is it from runoff or is it a low spot that water's going to sit?
Our whole little 1.2 acres kind of stays soggy for a couple of days after it rains. So it kind of just sits until it has a chance to get away. It doesn't run off very quickly. I guess
Gotcha.
is what I'm saying.
Okay. And that's a common thing that does happen. And here's where I do not want to confuse people. I know I'm going to get myself in trouble right now. And the easiest analogy I can explain right now is think about if you're going to plant a flower in a pot. And the first thing we're taught is, I have no green thumb, Kristen, correct me if I get wrong anywhere, you put rocks in the bottom. And that is because water is going to always take the path of least resistance. And when it comes to really any structure you're building, in this case a chicken coop, when water's going to come, you want it to go. You do not want it sitting around. And this is the one time that if you have sand available, that can be to your benefit, but I'm not recommending using sand inside the run for the chickens to scratch in. What I actually would recommend, and this is the ideal situation, and we do this a lot, especially in Florida where the soil's already sandy, is if you were able to build it up with a concrete footer and then set the coop on top of that. And that's your most expensive option. And then that way you're doing a couple things. That entire concrete footer will kind of act like a boat in the ocean. It'll sit right on that wet area and act as one solid structure. And then that also will allow you to add, like say you built it up 6 inches on the inside, you can bring in your favorite type of compost material. You mentioned the sawmill shavings. You can throw that inside the run area because you've built up the sides, and the chickens will absolutely love it. Now that's the most expensive option. The other option is to just use regular ground contact rated pressure treated lumber and build up a perimeter that the coop will sit on, and that will help minimize the amount of moisture that could potentially be getting inside your run. But no matter what, and here's one of the reasons why we do what we do with all our coops, is we put a solid roof over the entire structure. And that's why I was asking you, is it runoff or is it just kind of sitting, staying soggy? Because what's going to happen is that roof is going to keep your run area dry. And if it's not runoff coming to it, that's going to make a huge difference, especially if you were to add gutters to it. So every situation is different. And I would just say, depending on the amount of moisture, the amount of water you're getting, always remember water takes the path of least resistance. And, another thing you can think of, and we did this, and actually check out we were in New Hope, Alabama. I don't remember the title. We put in what was basically a French drain where it was dug down, and you put in corrugated. It's like a corrugated pipe, 4 inches, or a lot of times people call it tile. And you dig down a trench, you drop that in, it's surrounded by stone, and then any water that's around your coop will go into that pipe and go right on downhill. So again, the idea is it'll help dry it out even faster. So I don't want to confuse you though. When it comes to the chickens inside the run, mimic the forest floor. I love that compost organic material, that just like what you would find on the forest floor.
Yeah, and I want to reiterate, without a roof, that pressure treated basin is going to be a swimming pool, especially if you have maybe clay soil, something that doesn't drain. So
yeah, absolutely. You do not want to, if you're building a chicken coop, and everyone that's listening, I cannot emphasize the importance of having a solid roof over your entire structure. And of course, I think metal's the best. It's most economical. And if you're collecting rainwater, which I know we do, a lot of our customers do, that's the safest way to collect rainwater. And it will make your chickens so much happier.
Well, even those plastic corrugated panels from Lowe's or Home Depot are pretty decent. I mean, as far as a low cost roofing for a run, if you're really looking to save some money.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. And it's made out of polycarbonate. So they are definitely cheaper than metal roofing, and it will keep the water out and provide shade.
Well, we are looking at doing a metal roof over the run. It looks like we have started with 2-inch cement blocks, I guess, to put our 2x8 treated base on. So I was just hoping that maybe we could start with a layer of sand or a layer of those sawmill shavings, and then just build up with something closer to a mulch or a compostable, something more close to the forest floor.
Yeah, I think you'll still, if water's sitting there, it's still there. That's going to still continue to cause an issue. I would really focus on trying to make sure if there's a way to divert the water from going near your coop, and then when water is there, give it the path of least resistance and get it to just, it's going to run right on downhill. So just kind of have your corrugated pipe
Aw.
pitched down, and I think you'll see a huge improvement. And again, that's what they do around homes all the time when they have this problem, and it works beautifully. So thank you so much for calling.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. Best of luck to you. We're going to talk a little bit about our YouTube channel and some of the YouTube chicken police. Coming to you now from the inside of the Carolina Coops YouTube channel, helping make sure we directly thank all of our wonderful subscribers, and yes, even all of you YouTube chicken police that find it necessary to litter the yard with coop envy. Here now, our YouTube warden, Ingrid Fromm. What do you have for us this week?
Well, for the most part, they're very nice and supportive, but there's always people that love to be tough guys behind the keyboards. So there was one that I thought was interesting with your when you were talking about the cheap coops.
Sure.
One of those videos, and someone said, "You're a snob. They're very good for the money."
Someone called me a snob?
They basically thought that that we were just being a snob because we were trashing the crappy coops, which I basically and nicely said that we just felt that those coops were not good for chickens.
Well,
Yeah.
they're starter coops,
They're
maybe
starter
at best.
Yes.
They're
And
just not going to last.
They're not
right.
going to last.
They're not going to
Listen,
last,
li-
and they also don't help promote the health and happiness of chickens.
Right.
And that's what we're about.
Exactly. So listen, folks, I'm not being a snob by any means, and I'm trying to emphasize this. Yes, I love my product. I think we have the best. I know we have the best chicken coop out there, and yes, I want to sell our coops. And I've also gone on record and said, if you're not going to buy one of my coops, learn from us and build your own. I think that's absolutely awesome. Especially, just recently we had a family building their own coop, and they FaceTimed me, asked me some questions. They had all their kids out there with an assembly line. That's true homeschooling. Anyways. We need to educate people. You got these Chinese coffin coops coming in from China that tell you, oh yeah, you can put 16 chickens in here. They're lying to you. And what I don't want to have happen is you get this coop because you believe it, because why couldn't you trust the manufacturer of these chicken coops? You're going to get it, and you're going to run into all kinds of problems, not because of the chickens, because of the coop. And typically it's going to be because of the space. And then when it comes time to clean it, oh my gosh, how many times you get that guillotine effect? You pull out that tray, and the chicken droppings are 4 inches tall. I mean, it just makes a mess, right?
Before I get into this other guy, there's a new guy that's been coming on, Grant Anderson, and he is a big fan. So he says, "You guys make hard work look like fun."
Grant Anderson, thank you, sir. I do appreciate that. Yeah, and I do want to mention that all our YouTube subscribers out there, and if you're not already a subscriber, please go subscribe. 99% of our fans are awesome. We just have the best fans out there. Thank you for all the positive feedback, because so much work does go into these chicken coops, and then to bring it to you in a video form to help promote our product and or to learn from. So Grant, thank you so much.
Right, yeah, he had a bunch of comments, and he must be a new subscriber, and we love that. We love that people go and hit a bunch of the videos. There's a consensus that we should give out our carabiners to people that buy custom coops, because they don't understand why they're getting a big coop, and we tell them to go buy a carabiner.
That is interesting, and truth be told, that's not a bad
carabiner.
idea.
We should brand them. We're going to brand them Carolina Coops carabiners, though. Let's brand them.
Right. So if you don't know what carabiner is, maybe we can somehow bring that up. But basically, it's an additional. It's like climbers use it, for the ropes and whatnot, and you can put it through that hole on the gate latch. To make sure predators, they could easily open up that gate latch. Well, you want to make it very difficult for them. And yeah, I mentioned, do a carabiner, but here's why I've never included it, is I like options. Some people aren't going to use carabiners. Sometimes they're going to use a padlock, combination lock. I've seen some fancy mechanisms where it's just like kind of a loop-de-loop wire that does the job. It's very slick. But also I want to say that probably a lot of people that didn't make the video, we go out and we buy the carabiners for them. and then to make it even worse, every time, I should hang them up on the wall. When I'm doing the video and they already have a carabiner and it's the customers, I always forget to put it back on the lock. And I don't realize it's in my clothes when I go to do laundry when I get back home. And I've taken their carabiner. They're yelling at me, "Matt, you took my carabiner." But All right, so that's noted. That's something I'll think about, especially for our custom
Okay.
coops.
That's a great one, Ingrid.
Yeah, what else you got,
There's
Ingrid?
I like that.
well, there's this one guy, and I'm going to mention his name because why not? Richard Nance. So this is the guy that commented on an older video of a Carolina Coop and said, "You guys must be smoking chicken bleep when you came up with those prices. No wonder you won't tell people how much they cost in your sales pitch videos." And I take umbrage at the sales pitch videos because they're not sales pitch videos. We work hard on those videos.
You know what? I did see that, and here's the deal. You can go to our website 24/7, carolinacoops.com. You'll see all our pricing. You can call us. I have people answering the phones all day. But here's the deal. In those videos, I made that mistake. We did, Kristen and I were in Cary, North Carolina, and we were unveiling our Cali Coop. And I made the awful mistake of saying my goal is to have the best coop for the best price at $1,000, if I remember correctly. I have people now mad that video is still up because they say I said this coop is $1,000 for sale. That's not true. So that's one of the reasons why I don't mention the price of the coop, especially in the videos. And also, we want to respect the privacy of our customers, right?
Exactly. I mean, our custom coops, and also if we gave out the price of our custom coops, people don't realize what went into that. Maybe we did ground prep. Maybe we were there for 10 days. Maybe there's all these other variables you can't possibly explain in a comment or a video to why the cost was the cost. And it's not fair to us, and it's not fair to the privacy of our customers, because people, you don't tell them how much your house cost or how much, your car costs.
Yeah, I mean,
But
bottom line, I mean, is it coop envy? Can we call it that?
I think it is. I think this guy has super coop envy, because he also, when I, and I'm trying to be really diplomatic and nice with my replies.
You are.
I hope I
Swedish.
accomplish that. So I basically just said that our coops are those prices because of the high quality materials, the craftsmanship.
Right.
And,
So here's
and
the
all that
deal.
stuff. And he went on about how that he just basically called, BS on me.
Yeah. Well, Ingrid, it was a great response, I think. And bottom line here is, and here's got another point to the Radio Chicken podcast here, and I've heard this over and over. Yes, I know our coops aren't the cheapest out there, but you pay for what you get. But here's the other thing: when you start to, if you're, especially if you're going to copy one of our coops to the T, you will not believe how much these materials cost, and the materials are just going up and up. And so I would also like to mention, and here's where God bless her, answering all the emails, all the phone calls in that office, taking charge of the sales team there. She is so mad at me because I have not yet done price increases. We just got whacked with 30% tariffs. Anything that we do, unfortunately, have to import from China, but still cheaper. But just so you guys know, we are working so hard to make sure that we are doing everything we can to make the best coop for the best price. Going to beat China at their own game somehow, some way. And I want to say we're getting there. I think we've come a long ways. Couldn't do it without you guys. And, of course, our customers that have supported us over the years. And then all the feedback on the chicken coops to continue to make them better.
Exactly. And there was one guy that had said, just to your point, that they tried to make one, I think it was from your California coop, and he said that he ended up spending more money on his materials
Yeah.
than had he just bought it from you, and kind of don't let his wife know that.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's the other thing, too. A lot of people don't realize that you're also going to it's going to take so much longer. So if your time is valuable, that's the other huge benefit from us. We have perfected these chicken coops. So they're not only perfect for your chickens, they're perfect for you. And we start incorporating that deep litter system where you can go over a year before you got to clean out your hen house. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that. And of course, if you haven't seen us where we show how easy it is to clean out our chicken coop, Kristen and I, maybe about, was it 2016? We did a video 5 years ago, cleaning out the hen house. We did it in under 10 minutes. And we ended up putting the litter, I kid you not, the industrial hemp works so well. We ended up putting the litter right back in there. So,
and that's on deeplitter.com too, if you want to see
that's
that.
right. Deeplitter.com. I forgot that we...
or deeplittermethod.com.
Perfect.
I should get that right.
Awesome. Alrighty. Is there anything else? Do we feel better? Do we get that off our chest?
I think so. I'll save some more for next.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so next week, again, we're going to have Ingrid come in, just talk about the YouTube comments. Just because, again, I hope people learn from it and then also be aware that maybe you're not aware we have a YouTube channel. And please go there and please subscribe. So I thank you so much, Ingrid. And we have another caller, Patrick. He's been waiting for 36 minutes. I hope he's still there. Good morning, Patrick.
Hi, how are you doing, Matt?
Oh, I'm so happy. I tell you, I'm so happy you're still there and so sorry about that wait. I hope you are enjoying the show.
I am very much. And actually, you've already answered a few of the questions that I had. I, first of all, want to say I love your coops. And I think they are, bar none, probably the best coops out there. And that's what I'm looking to build myself, is something very similar to yours.
Thank you.
And I'm trying to plan it out. And one of the things I'm contemplating is, should I go with an asphalt roof or a metal roof? And I just want to know what the pros and cons are, and if there's any danger with an asphalt roof with the rain collection and the water bar.
Great question. Because I can see a lot of people making this mistake. So asphalt shingles versus metal. Now, we love metal roofing for many, many reasons. The number one reason is when it comes to raising chickens, and I cannot emphasize this enough, people make this mistake all the time. It's all about keeping your chickens cool during the summertime, not keeping them warm during the winter. So many people get that backwards. So with metal roof, it's one of the best roofing materials that gives you what's called TSR, total solar reflectance. It's going to be the best material to keep your hen house cool and reflect that heat from the sun. Now, number two, being someone that has installed a lot of chicken coops, it is the quickest, easiest way to install a beautiful roof versus I've done a lot of asphalt shingles, done a lot of cedar shingles. It's so time consuming. Now, the other thing that you mentioned is it safe for the water? And I am no water expert. I've been doing a lot of research, and we're actually going to have a water expert coming on hopefully in the next couple weeks, where I want to really pick their brain, get into the science of collecting rainwater. But it's to my understanding that if you collect rainwater off of a roof with asphalt shingles, you are potentially getting that petroleum, those oils into that water, which can potentially be toxic to your chickens. Now, again, before I make a lot of people mad, I am not a water expert. I'm sure there's a lot of people that do this and they've never had a problem. I just know that it's another benefit when we talk about should we do asphalt shingles or a metal roof. You go on a lot of these rain capturing websites off your roof, they will all recommend using metal because it's way safer.
Okay, that's good to know. Because I'm looking at the cost of both, and it really seems to be kind of even.
Yeah, but I guarantee you too, the metal, it's going to make your chicken so much happier. It's also, here's another thing I want to mention too, it's a lot lighter. You don't want to have your roof any heavier than it needs to be. And when it comes to time, it takes so much more time to install an asphalt shingle roof compared to doing metal roof.
Now, I have another question.
Sure, go ahead.
Regarding the roof. So I live in Charleston. We get a lot of hurricanes. We get windstorms like crazy once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
I do want a roof over my run. Happy chickens, right?
Yep.
So how should I position the coop so that the prevailing winds don't lift up my coop, basically? I'm just wondering.
Absolutely.
Is that a concern?
Yeah. Another great question. And this is something, especially when we do site surveys, we talk about this a lot, because if you look at our Cali coop, AmeriCoop, Carolina Coop, there's a common theme, and that is you have an elevated hen house and you have a large run that you can walk into. And you do need to be careful if you have a situation where you have potential high winds. If your coop is positioned a certain way where that wind comes in, goes into the run, it's going to hit the front of the hen house and go up. And what it's going to do is it's going to lift your entire structure. So what I always advise people is, if you're in that situation, anchor it down. There's huge hurricane stakes, and we've done that. We were actually in, St. Helena Island, I think, down your way in South Carolina. Huge stakes on there. It was 100 degrees. It's not fun pounding them in, but it worked. So you can anchor it down, But if you didn't want to do that and you want to minimize the chance of it blowing away, just turn the back, the solid structure, the solid part to the prevailing winds. And that will, if anything, maybe just push on it a little bit, which shouldn't be too big of an issue. But it's the lifting. That's what you want to prevent.
You said these were hurricane anchors?
Hurricane stakes, yeah. A lot of shed companies, when they deliver them, sometimes it's code. They're very large stakes. They're usually about 48 inches long. They're going to have spades. It looks like something from the medieval times. That'd be a nasty weapon. But you pound them in, and they're not coming out of the ground. Now, the hack, if you will, is dog stakes that look like a corkscrew. We've done that, and it's worked perfectly without a problem, and way more affordable and so much easier to put in. But you also got to remember what your soil composition is. If it's very sandy, that's where those hurricane stakes may be a lot better for you.
All right. Thank you very much for taking my call. I appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. Thank you for waiting. Thank you for calling. Thank you for listening. Good luck to you. And if there's anything else we can do for you, we'll be here.
Thank you very much.
I love it. Chickens in the news. All right, Kristen, what do you got for us? Chickens in the news. And there's a lot of chickens in the news right now, isn't there?
There is. We have a lot of people on quarantine, stay-at-home order across America. And what do you know? The New York Times had an article on March 28th saying, America stress bought all the baby chickens. In times of anxiety, we hoard the sources of eggs. Now, this article just caught my eye. I love this article. It seems like it happens almost every spring, though. We're running out of baby chicks. I mean, my local farm store, sometimes you have to stand in line the day that chicks come in to buy the baby chicks. But this year happens to be a little bit worse as far as buying baby chicks, because everyone has bought the baby chicks. And I love that they use the word stress bought. America stress bought all the baby chickens.
Yeah, I actually made a note of that. That is great terminology, and boy, have we seen that. And I feel sorry for a lot of people that are thinking this year, getting into chickens for the first time. Don't let that discourage you. What is going on right now, just in the world in general, but with chicken coops and buying baby chicks, they're hard to come by. And typically,
absolutely.
Like Kristen and I, we would always tell people is if you're thinking about ordering baby chicks, you want to get on that waiting list by January, because it's amazing how fast they sell out. Well, this year, I'm happy to say, I'm happy that people are like, oh crap,
Yeah, I mean, and the article states that there's an enormous rise in unemployment. People are anxious for free time. We've got financial instability, and this all leads up to baby chickens. And now that people have the idea to have baby chickens, they're hard to come by. That says chick sales go up during stock market downturns and, oddly, in presidential election years.
Really?
Yeah.
Presidential years. Well, it is interesting, and I'm so glad, again, everyone out there, if you're thinking about getting into chickens and you haven't been able to find your baby chicks, keep looking. There are great hatcheries out there that we absolutely love. I think maybe in a couple more episodes we'll plug them. I'm hoping to do some cross promotion because we talked about having those giveaways, but I know I've always been amazed by the hatcheries, the big ones that we've worked with, the customer service, the availability. People say, wait a minute, you can order baby chicks through the mail? And absolutely. So, Kristen mentioned, you got your local hatcheries, definitely a huge fan of that. Maybe pick out the breeds that you want. But also, if you want to be more specific, there's so many great breeders out there, so many great hatcheries, where if the timing works, you can definitely order the specific breeds. But is there anything in the news about when are they replenishing? Is there more available? I mean, how's it looking now? Does it mention if the hatcheries are they completely out? Are they going to maybe ramp up production, which has got to be kind of difficult? There's a lot of
they're
logistics.
They're trying to increase production.
Gotcha. All right, awesome. For all you folks out there, if you've enjoyed the show, questions, comments, didn't enjoy the show, maybe you hated us, whatever, let us know. This is for you guys. This is sponsored by CarolinaCoops.com. If you're not going to buy one of my coops, I want you to learn and build your coops, and then also learn as much as you can about chickens. And we're going to be getting more into not just the chickens and the coops, but we got some great chefs at our fingertips that have some awesome recipes. And we're also going to talk a lot about, actually next week, we're going to have a guest caller on that is an expert in the industrial hemp, which is a very popular product. And actually, to that note, I know a lot of people have been emailing in. So let's finish on another caller here. You are on the air with Radio Chicken.
Hey, Matt, just a quick question pertaining to the water bar and barrel.
Yes.
Is there any concerns sitting there stagnantly?
So I have never had concerns, but this is a question we get a lot. And, what I've learned over the years is every situation is different. So now, with our system, 99% of them that we sell are the heated water system. So it's going to contain the food safe rain barrel sitting on a base. There's 2 stainless steel hoses feeding a water bar. And how to keep it from freezing, we have a pump and then we have a heater. Now, whether you have that system or you have what's called our non-heated rain catching system, there's still a pump. And the reason why we keep that pump there is if you are having an issue with stagnation, or if you have to dose it, treat it, maybe you want to put some essential oils in there, I don't know. You can just turn that pump on and circulate it. So what I can tell you from my experience, I've had 2 systems, never had an issue, but also none of my coops, I'm kind of breaking my own advice, are not in the woods. They're out in the open. And Kristen, I know you have a heated water system in the woods. Have you ever had any issues?
Not to my knowledge, my chickens are happy and healthy. I was just thinking, my water barrel has been there for years, and I've never changed the water or serviced it or anything. I'll go out there and decant some water and maybe get it tested. Let's see what the water quality is.
I see there's products, and one of them that comes to mind is the vinegar, the apple cider vinegar, and I don't know if that was something to consider. I'm not saying I'm having any problems. I'm trying to be proactive.
So, I had a customer recently. I wish I would have recorded the conversation. The man was so smart. We talked about that in Greensville, South Carolina. And he got scientific about, when I said to him, we have a lot of customers that will put apple cider vinegar in the rain barrel. And to be honest with you, I never really understood what the reason was. And he explained it about somehow it's separating some possible what could be bad, getting it to settle to the bottom, almost acting like a liquid filter. So that is something I would love to learn more about. And that is, again, the goal with radiochicken.com. We can get into the science because I want to learn as well. Kristen, do you any knowledge on that, apple cider vinegar? I hear that all the time.
I used to use it many, many years ago. I don't use it anymore. No, I really don't know. I would defer to the scientists on that one.
Yes,
I'm not sure.
I got a couple scientists in queue. I hope to get them on. And it's probably going to be the first time they're ever going to be talking about chickens. But I think it's important. Like you were talking about earlier, water is so important, not just how it's delivered, but we all need water. And one of the things that can be a downside about raising chickens is having that constant chore. But that's the beauty of creating a perfect rain barrel system when you can collect the rainwater, or even if you're just going to make your water bar and hook it up to a pressure regulator and reduce that pressure, you can still keep the water clean, safe, and eliminate that as a chore. Colin, I didn't catch your name in the beginning.
It's Jim.
Jim. Well, Jim, thank you so much. Is there anything else we can answer for you?
No, that's all, but thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for calling in, Jim. Want to make it worth it, and we can't do it without our listeners, people that are listening to us. Thank you so much that have been here. I hope you're learning something, and please let us know what we can do to make the show better. Please share this. I want as many people finding out about Carolina Coops. Go visit us at Instagram. Follow us there. Go subscribe at YouTube if you haven't already. Questions. We really didn't get to questions, but all right. You ready to answer some questions real quick? Okay, here we go. How do chickens get to the roost/perch? That's a pretty general question, and it just made me realize something that I know every time when people call in looking to buy a coop from us, one of the first things that I have to do is talk about terminology, and especially with our coops. And so if you've been listening and maybe there's a couple things that didn't make sense, I want to first start off when I mention the word coop. Most people think of it as just the solid structure that they're going to sleep in at night. And to me, that's not it. The entire coop is the hen house and run. And that coop is made up of two parts, the hen house and run. And inside that hen house, the chickens do two things. That's where they sleep at night, and that's where they lay their eggs in the egg boxes. And so we call where their bed at night that they sleep on is the roost. And that's their tree branch, right? Before coops were invented. And how do chickens get to the roost? And okay, so it goes on and says, do they need a ladder or platform? Well, I know a certain breed that does.
Silkies? You love silkies.
You know, I
You and silkies and naked necks.
oh God, naked necks.
And I'm being sarcastic for all the people that don't really know you.
Yeah, so that's something, silkies are just a different breed, and I think it's so important. We have to do a show just on silkies. And I think I'm going to do a coop at the shop, just silkies. Because even though silkies drive me crazy because they're so difficult, well, I don't want to say they're difficult, they're different. I've learned over the years that, you build a coop for silkies, you build it for regular chickens. Silkies are not regular chickens. So if you have silkies, yeah, that's going to be a little bit difficult for them to get up to the roost if it's up at the normal height for standard chickens. So to answer the question is, like in our chicken coops, the roost bar is 2 feet above the floor of the hen house, and there's usually less than that as the deep litter builds up, but they have no problem hopping up there.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Again,
they use their wings.
Yeah, they use their wings, exactly, unless they're silkies. And that is why silkies, one of the reasons why they're difficult.
They don't have proper wing feathers. They don't have their flight feathers.
Yeah, we're hurting a lot of silkies' feelings right now, I think.
But sometimes I've had hatchery silkies that just run with a pack like a regular chicken and manage to get up on the roost.
Right, and I know a lot of our customers have silkies. They're kind of a breed that you love them or hate them. And I hate to use the word hate, but they're more difficult than you think. So one of the things I have learned to always tell people, if you're thinking about getting silkies, just do silkies, at least in that one coop. Don't try to mix the two, or they are going to... I always think of that meme.
I disagree.
Oh, here we go. It's about time. What do you mean? Okay, go ahead.
No, like I said, I've had some hatchery... I have a hatchery silkie right now that's just like the other chickens.
Oh, it's getting right up on the roost bars.
It's getting up there.
Notice that wasn't a confirmed yes. Is it getting right up on the roost bars?
It's getting up there.
Mm-hmm.
It's got good instincts. It does all the chicken things. But then again, I've paid $100 for one silkie that was dumb as bricks. That thing, the brains were bred right out of it. I mean, that thing had no instincts. It would just give up, and like the sun would set, and it would just sit down wherever it was, like in the middle of the lawn. It would hit a tree because it couldn't see and just give up and sit there for the rest of the night. Every single night I had to take and put that thing in the chicken coop until eventually a raccoon got it at night because I didn't go out there.
I think I remember that. That was the nail in the coffin for me for silkies. I'm just like, there's no way. I mean, yes, they're pretty and fluffy and the kids love them. And I know I know when you talk to people about, when people ask the great question, what breeds should I get? I can't wait till we just hammer that subject. You always do mention at least bantams, and I want to say you do advise for someone to get a silkie. Sometimes because of that whole broodiness.
Right, but there's a lot of broody breeds.
Still.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, Cochins are great broodies.
Yeah, they are. They absolutely are. So I can't wait till we get into that subject more. So let's get through these questions. All right, what type of time care is involved with taking care of chickens? Well, I love that question too because it comes down to the coop. Everything comes down to having the right coop. And that's where, again, over the episodes or on our videos, we're going to talk more about that. But you got to have the right size. And
then you're watering and feeding.
Exactly. But it doesn't have to take too long with the watering because if you have the right heated water, a water system like the water bar, really on a daily basis, if you have the right setup, I guess it depends on how many chickens you have. That's going to involve how long you're going to take collecting eggs.
Yeah, with your coop setup and your watering system, your daily chores are really just collecting eggs. Maybe a weekly feed.
Yeah, just do your once over on the feed. The water's
watering,
there.
You don't ever have to water them, and you don't really ever have to clean out the chicken coop.
Exactly, especially with that deep litter system and the use of industrial hemp. If you're not familiar with industrial hemp, definitely go to my website. So as far as time and care, again, it all depends on the coop. If it's done right, it should not take that long at all. And the question does go on, how would you compare it to taking care of a dog?
Much easier.
Oh my gosh, way easier. Way easier. And I'm a dog person.
You can go on vacation and you don't have to get a pet sitter.
God, that's such a great point.
You don't have a vet bill.
Well, I know some people that have a chicken vet bill. But that is a good point. And that's again, going back to our chicken coops or the right chicken coop setup, is you can go away for a week, if not longer, and not have to worry about your chickens, especially if they do free range, which I am a fan of. I know they are exposing themselves to predation, but it's so well worth it. And you put an automatic door on there. Is very, very easy. How does the cost compare after initial installation? How does the cost compare?
I think that's minimal. Most of the cost in getting set up with backyard chickens is the coop.
And
a bag of feed here is $11.99.
Right, and thank you, YouTube Chicken Police. A lot of times they're like, "Oh, those are some expensive eggs." You know what? You don't do it because of how you're trying to save money on eggs. You're trying to save money on your health insurance.
Well, I'm going to blow your mind. I have a vegan friend, has chickens, and she doesn't even eat the eggs. She just has them for pets for lawn.
Yep.
For eating ticks, pests.
Biological pest control, absolutely.
Right.
And that was something I was going to ask Nicole earlier, and I think we'll do it next time. She's big on guineas. Great for biological pest control, eating those ticks. And the fertilization. What are your thoughts on using kills as a sealer for the deep litter area? So if you're not familiar with kills, that is a very popular primer that just really, it adheres well. I'm not a fan of it. And I'll explain why. And we mentioned it a little bit earlier that if you're building your chicken coop, you definitely want to put in the deep litter system. And if you don't want to spend the money on the high density polyethylene, just put oil in there. You treat it like a wooden salad bowl. And there's some really good oils. There's boiled linseed oil, which is food safe. There's vegetable oil. But again, it's what's going to absorb the moisture is the carbon, the litter, the pine shavings, or again the industrial hemp, which is ideal. I wouldn't recommend it because I think you're going to have higher maintenance. I think you're going to end up going in there and regretting it. And it's going to start peeling off. But I could be wrong. For the record, I've never used it because we've never needed to.
Yeah. I think getting back to what you're saying, I do believe that instead of focusing on how to protect that wood on the inside, the focus should be on bedding material to use. I think that's really, and how much. That's probably much more important than focusing on whether to use paint or kills or that Flex Seal or FRP. Or
right, the FRP days.
We used to use FRP.
Oh boy! Oh my gosh!
Reinforced plastic. Is that what it is?
That's exactly it. So if you're not familiar with FRP, fiber reinforced plastic, we used it and we used it for a long time because it is a great material. It's not that expensive. You can find it at all hardware stores. It is waterproof, but it is going to create a layer. But if you do it well, that's not an issue. The reason why we stopped using it is it's awful to breathe in when cutting it. And when I discovered food safe high density polyethylene and we did some tests with some customers, they absolutely loved it. And the other thing too, that kind of add to what Kristen just said, and that's right, that's what you got to focus on, not how to seal it. Your chicken to coop ratio. If you're putting 100 chickens in a hen house to sleep at night that's designed for 12 chickens, you're asking for problems. You're going to have way too high of a nitrogen load. So it says here, we already painted our hen house floor with gloss paint. Will this be a problem in the deep litter system? No, I don't think it'll be a problem.
I don't think so.
With the deep litter system. You just may end up finding, depending on the quality of the paint and maybe the type of wood that you painted it on, may end up peeling. And
probably not.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean,
either.
it's dark in there. If there's not enough dry material, it's really going to be insignificant.
So you don't think it will be? You don't think it'll be a maintenance issue?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Especially if you're not scraping it. I mean, if you're cleaning it out every week and scraping it, yeah, you're going to scrape off that paint. But if you just let dry material sit in there for a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's in a dark place. It doesn't have
this is sounding very depressing.
This
is sounding like
Expansion, contraction.
No, you're exactly right. So, but you did mention a point though. When it does come time to cleaning, I mean, we do that. We use the rock rake or a
Right.
hoe. That's going to scrape into it, and that's another thing. I know why our customers love high density polyethylene. Go for it. That stuff is so dense, you can't break it. So that is interesting. But I do agree. I do agree that as long as your chicken to coop ratio is there, you got the right depth of
Right
a diaper.
bedding, yeah.
Exactly.
that's-
What are your thoughts about artificial grass in the nesting boxes? What do you say to that, Kristen? What artificial grass in the nesting boxes?
Well, I used to use pine shavings just because that's what I had. I had plenty of pine shavings to use. But then I discovered that if I use some sort of hay, that it encourages their instincts. I discovered that when I just put hay out there, they built nests like any bird does, like a
Yep.
songbird. These beautiful bowl-shaped nests that I didn't even know my chickens could do when I was new with chickens.
And they love it.
And
Yep.
it really it tied their nest together in my Carolina coop so that when I opened the nest box, I didn't have loose bedding falling out. And then the eggs were just completely clean and beautiful, and I still have those same nests years later in the chicken coop.
The
Chicken
same
flukes
nesting
will say,
material.
okay, yeah, but okay, maybe I should have cleaned it out for mite protection or something like
Oh,
that.
I know. Yeah, here we go.
I know, but I left it because it was beautiful and it's still intact today.
Exactly,
So-
exactly. I always tell people if you got dirty eggs, it's there's something else going on. And then the other thing too, I want to put this out there. It's something that I'm going to be experimenting soon. I want to give props to, I love YouTube and watching YouTube channels, and there is a gentleman I love to follow. His name's Justin Rhodes. He does. Gosh, I wish I could remember right now because I'd love to properly give him a plug and maybe bring him on someday. He went out, Farms of America, and one of the people he went and visited was a sheep farmer, wool, and put it in the nest boxes. And he said that has been the best nesting material he's ever used. So, of course, me, the entrepreneur in me, I was like, wow, that would be awesome. And to be able to offer that as nesting material. So I'm going to experiment with it. It does make sense. I'm sure there's people out there that maybe be like, oh my God, that's an awful idea. Mites, and I don't know. So I guess we won't know until we try. What are your thoughts about DE, diatomaceous earth? No? You want me to
Well,
take
you're
that
the bug guy. I've heard you talk about it.
So, I hear about diatomaceous earth all the time. And yes, I was an exterminator for 15 years. I was that bug guy that everyone loved because I was nerdy. I loved it. And diatomaceous earth, there's a couple things here that I think people need to be clear on. Diatomaceous earth, its mode to kill is to act as a desiccant. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's toxic, that's harmful. Well, just don't breathe it in. It actually can be a great product, especially if you, for whatever reason, there's many reasons for this, if you have mites for some reason, it is great to be able to add for your chickens to make sure they have a sand bath. But already that sand bath is acting like the diatomaceous earth does, to act as that desiccant. So, and then of course there's food safe diatomaceous earth. The active ingredient is still the same. So I kind of go back to, if you have to use diatomaceous earth for a reason, there might be something else going on. I know I am a huge fan of prevention, but prevention is having the right coop. And here's another great reason why it's so important to let your chickens free range. Mine just did it the other day. I had to move some of the fencing and I let them out for a little bit. Well, I have a huge, it's probably about an acre fenced off with their electric poultry fencing that I've been experimenting with. Of course, wouldn't you know, they ran right to the sand like they haven't had a bath in a year. I felt so bad, so I had to move the fencing material. But you just got to make sure what they have, what they need in nature. So when it comes to diatomaceous earth, just if you're going to use it, read the label, the instructions. Red people use it in the feed for a wormer and also in a dust bath. So we just addressed the dust bath. I don't understand diatomaceous earth in the feed as a wormer, and I'll explain why. It's a desiccant. And the best analogy is if you walk on the beach and you're barefoot, if you walk on dry sand, the sand gets between your toes. That will irritate the target pest. You walk on the sand that is wet with bare feet. It doesn't get in between the toes. In my opinion, when that diatomaceous earth goes into the body, that's like walking on the wet sand. I don't know how that's actually going to work for the wormer. That's just my opinion. I think that would end up being wasteful. I think there's better treatments for wormers. Kristen, I'm sure you have something to say to that.
Yeah, there are a lot of dewormers on the market. You have to withdraw the eggs to do so. You really have to do a fecal test to even find out if you have worms.
Yeah, you know
All
what?
about deworming.
Absolutely. I really want to get into that. You know, and Nicole, too, since she wrote a book on health, that she might have a lot to say about that. So look forward to listening to that and learning some more. And it goes on to say, 1-to-3 ratio in the soil. However, I have also read that poultry vets highly discourage it for respiratory issues. Well, respiratory issues for the chickens or for you or for both? Because, chickens do have a sensitive respiratory system. But I'm telling you, it's not fun breathing in sand either. When you go watch them take that dust bath, but they do it, they're not in it all day, Again, I'm just a fan of letting chickens do what they do in nature. And if you can't let them free range, the video we did down in Orlando, Florida with Maria, she was burning specific woods to make ash for the dust bath. And she had a dedicated spot inside the run with certain herbs and spices. It was crazy, but I tell you, I've never seen chickens listen to a lady. She was by far the chicken whisperer. She could tell those chickens what to do, and they would listen. It was incredible. So whatever she's doing, bravo to her. It's definitely working. I guess too much of anything can be bad. But for you, if you're using diatomaceous earth, it's just like anything else. You don't want to breathe it in because that is very damaging to your lungs. What's your
And we all want healthy lungs right now.
Yeah, we do. And we'll do next week. Same thing, just different day. And if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything at all, help us make this show better. I have had a lot of fun. Kristen, you?
I have too. I can't wait till next week.
Yeah, same here. So guys, thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, please go to YouTube and subscribe. If you haven't been a follower on Instagram, please do so. We will talk to you next week. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone.